I think poor communication is the number one problem in any relationship. I've seen that since I was an orphan at age 13. And that's really what I've been focused on for the last few years. So I don't think it gets talked about in depth enough. And I think it needs to, because it's hard to have unity in any type of relationship without effective communication, is what I like to say. It's corny, but I like it. It communicates the message. A little bit, you said, oh, lack of connection. Yeah, man, it's look, when you grow up an orphan, if you can picture a kid growing up an orphan. His mother dies of HIV, never knew his real father. A few months later, his stepfather gets murdered in Haiti. A few months later, his granduncle dies. Within a year, I was an orphan. If you can picture that kid, then everything that you can Google about me today makes sense, because I was thrown into the world of relationships. Now as a counselor, I understand when trauma happens to us, we either go away from it or we go towards it. What do I mean by that? Well, my trauma was lack of family. So if I went away from it, then I'd have problem having any type of relationships. I'd have commitment issues. It'd be very, very challenging to have a relationship. But I've been married 15 years, so I think I've mastered a little bit the art of war. But but no, I became obsessed, man. I was the kid at 13 who had a Nintendo controller in one hand, and Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus in another hand. Some of you might know that book if you're up there in age, but that's the equivalent of probably the five love languages today. That book was a pillar to everything, and I was that 13-year-old kid looking at that, and what I realized was, when you grow up under the context that God allowed me to grow up to kind of produce in me what He wanted me to produce in me for His purpose, you realize a lot of things. And what you realize is that people didn't deeply connect in relationships, especially if you had a lot of family, right? You kind of take it for granted. So here I was, a kid with no blood relatives. The only blood relatives I have as a 41-year-old man is my 3-year-old son that's turning 4 this year. I realize that a lot of people take relationships for granted. They don't connect. They don't know how to connect. They don't know they're not